following is a Sketch Media production.
The whole audience of film has only walked into mansions. What a low budget film is $1 million. $5 million is considered low budget. So right now, the audiences of film generally have only been in a mansion. And if I make a tiny house, they don't understand how to appreciate it.
Mr. Deitz.
This is it, huh?
Bro, like, already I can speak to you for hours, which is why I've been so happy to have you on, and you were my first go-to. The minute I kind of saw what this podcast was turning into, when I thought film, that mode of creativity, I knew the first person I had to have on was Isaac Deitz.
Oh, cool. That's an honor.
I'm not
That's awesome.
bullshitting.
Yeah,
like
that's awesome.
that. I said there's greats right around the corner. This guy, enough to where you go, that blue doesn't work well in that camera. Like most people couldn't say that. Most people
He
like,
knows
oh,
that.
that's what my parents got me.
Yeah.
So my
that's
friend,
cool.
thanks for being on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Deep man, we've known each other a while.
Yeah.
I'd say
A little bit.
a little bit above acquaintances.
Oh, yeah.
Getting to know each other, good friends.
You're one of those people that, like, we've hung out a handful of times, but it's always been a dense hang. Like, it's always been, like, full. So it's like, some people you had to hang out with, like, for years before you actually get to know them. But I feel like we got each other pretty early on.
Dude, dense hang. Well, no, it's like true. It's like it was it was a lot of data.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of data transfer.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of mileage out of each hour or whatever. It's not like just, yeah.
Well, I think when you
Big download.
Yeah.
big down, right? And I think when you lock in with somebody that you immediately like, there's like certain people you can move furniture with and certain people you can't.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
Like
You might get along with them, but you don't want to be roommates with them.
I can't move a large piece of furniture with you.
Yeah.
I'll kill you.
Yeah.
And like, or this could ruin our friendship, and I don't want. Like, I could like we were talking about stuff. Like, I literally see me just going, and you'd be like, and we'd be like, oh yeah, cool. I'll check
move
that.
it. Yeah.
And it's cool to be that.
Yeah.
But bro, without further ado, tell us about you, my friend.
Where do I start?
Condense yourself and just give us a little nice broad couple strokes of what got you to here.
Yeah.
Some of the milestones. Give our listeners, and watchers a bit about you, man. I know it's kind of a broad question, but like you've done a lot of cool shit. Like,
so I'm just explaining what I am and who I am or whatever. I'm a filmmaker. I kind of identify more as an artist that uses a camera, because filmmakers are usually like, somebody that holds lights for Marvel or something like that too. And it's like, I like to express myself through cameras. That's my main thing. So however I could do that, I love to do that. And I've done it now for 18 years full-time as a director. So I'm pretty proud of that.
should be.
Yeah, so I do film full-time. That's kind of like a big part of my identity. I live in Atlanta. I've got here 2009, like right around the tax incentives. But I didn't even know those were happening when I moved here. But yeah, I used to tour with bands a lot, doing video for them, doing documentary stuff. I had one of the first web series on YouTube when it came out, like the year it came out.
Interesting.
And it was like getting I think it was 76 most subscribed YouTube channel of all time, but
all right, so wait
8,000 subscribers.
There's usually two ways into music. I've always noticed this through people like that are creators. Is it through some type of extreme sport, or was it due to you play something that they said, hey, Deitz also does, let's have him shoot? Like your initial stuff.
I was always a camera person. Everyone knew me as a camera person, and I would just always carry around my camera to my best friend was a musician, and so I would go to his show and I'd just film it, and that's what I did. And then eventually he's like, well, hey, we're going on tour. You want to film that too? I also started as a merch guy, like selling T-shirts for him as a friend.
There you go.
See all that out there? That's the other member of the band. That guy will go down. The drummer will fucking go down before that dude.
Right, yeah.
The drummer will go down.
Funny enough, it's the bass player of that particular band. They're quitting, and then so I learned bass to tour with them as a bassist for one month.
Did you really do it?
I was, it was a jazz prodigy, so I was like learning like real good licks. But like if somebody was like, play Smoke on the Water, I'd be like, I don't know. I knew those 10 songs and only those 10 songs. I knew that set, but if there was any request for anything, then I couldn't do it. Like I just knew.
Dude, that's still impressive.
But I was a robot. Like I learned this year about like keys and how you could like, hey, we're in the key of G, and then I have a scale that I'm like, as long as I play notes in this, then I'll be kind of good, you know? That like never was explained to me. My dad was a musician for, you know, he was a guitarist for like, you know, played guitar for like 35 years or something like that. But when I was like, hey, I want to learn guitar, he's like, learn these scales. But I didn't know why I should learn these scales.
Weren't our parents
But
the
if somebody
greatest?
told me all you need is these are the ingredients that go together. So once this, you know, like, hey, we're playing in the key of G. Here's all the ingredients that will fit into this recipe.
Yeah.
Go ahead and play it as much as whatever you're feeling. And then I was like, this is why people like jamming. This is fun. This is cool. And it's like, I think people just assume that you just know how music works. And it's like, okay, hey.
It's funny because you say that. When I was a musician, my degree's in jazz percussion. Played my
cool.
whole life.
Cool.
Which is funny because it's almost like we look at this, we compare. We wonder why now you understand. Because I remember growing up and playing. My friends always told me, "This is what you need to know." It was never like learn this. You have to do. No, it was just like, hey man, power chords.
Right.
You can then play.
Right.
You are now included.
Right.
As long as you have tempo.
Right. Yeah.
You
that's
can
big.
hang out
That's
with
big.
us.
Yeah.
Right. And as long as you have tempo, we can show you where to move.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, and I loved that until I got to college, and then they made me go, look at do this, and I was like,
Right.
It was so funny the way you looked at it, like and that's like I love the way you explain the cameras to me. Like when we're talking about, like, dude, I'm looking for a third. What would you? Something small. You were like, it's paintbrush, bro. Think about the interface. The minute you said that to me, I was like, I don't want X brand now, because they always, the time I look at them, I'm like, Jesus, I just want blank.
Some cameras are just, they don't inspire you, and you want your tools to inspire you to, you know, when you get a new, like a drill or something like that, and you're like, oh, I can't wait to, like, there's all those things in my house that I wanted to fix, but my old shitty drill just isn't working. But then you're like, oh, now I can't wait to do this right. You know, like that's how a camera can be. Yeah. Cameras can totally be inspired. I just set up my camera in a way that it's like balanced in a way that I really love. It has all the way the handles that I like do my best work. I just got that set up, and I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to shoot something now. Like I'm going to see my friend's band Tuesday, and I'm going to reach out to the manager and be like, hey, I'll just film for free, because I would enjoy this concert more filming with my new camera rig than just sitting in the concert.
Because I want to play.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is my guitar. Like I saw a musician. I stole most of my stuff from musicians, because musicians care about the art. But when I would be stealing stuff from musicians, then I would go to the film world, and they're approaching this art form like way different than all these other artists I was hanging out with. So I was touring with musicians for a long time. I was around musicians before I toured with them. And I started seeing, like, okay, musicians would get a house, like if it's a band of 4, they'd get a 5-bedroom house, and their 5th bedroom they'd use for practicing and having all their stuff set up. I'm like, this is awesome. Why don't filmmakers do this? You know, like where there's this mutual room that everyone's using, where it's like, oh, you play drums, I play bass, you want to go jam? Like, then we could always be working on our stuff. Everyone also like understands and appreciates, like, oh, if they hear some drums while they're making breakfast, it's like, cool, we're only going to get better for this, you know, if this person's practicing their drums. It's not like you have one like accountant in the house that's like, oh, drums again. So like musicians did that. Another one I started a film house in Atlanta in 2010. I ran it for 10 years, and people from all over America would move in, and I'd have a curriculum for them, and I'd do like an apprenticeship, and it had 100% success rate. Everyone that went through the program did film for a living until they decided to switch careers, like, you know, 5-6 years in. But
Deitz.
So
fucking guy didn't even know this yet.
So that was stolen from musicians. And then another thing I stole from musicians was the idea of an open mic night. So I would go to my dad's open mic nights.
Here it comes. This
Yeah.
is incredible.
I would see my dad like be able to play a song that he wrote in front of a live audience anytime he wanted, because there's open mic nights and there's like and then I was doing stand-up comedy, there's open mic nights, but like specifically musicians, I was like, there's a place to show your art in front of a live audience and see if you're any good, and you can feel the room if you're any good, right? Film, to get a live audience, like right now today, if you wanted to make a film and let's say it's the best film that's ever been made, and you wanted it in front of a live audience, you know how much money has to happen before you could get a live audience? Like, so first you got to submit to 50 film festivals at $50 to $100 a submission. Those are all lottery tickets. So how many times you've paid your submission fee is not a guarantee. It's I hope they like this film. I hope it fits all the demographics that they want it to fit. Then they choose the film. You still don't have a live audience, because film festivals, of course there's always the big ones, that's for anything, but you go to these film festivals, they finally accept your film, you go there, and then you have 3 people in the audience, and it's like, they didn't market this film festival, it's not a film festival people want to go to. Or in my case, I did, I'm trying to avoid names, but I went to my hometown and got into their film festival for a feature film I did. And it was going to be great. Like, hey, we're in the International Film Festival of my hometown, and we got all our friends to come. We got 200 people to go, right? $15 a ticket, 250 people, thousands of dollars. And how much did that cost us, or how much did we make? We lost $50. So if we rented a theater ourselves, which I used to do when I was a kid, I would rent a theater, and then I'd take home the profits in that way. So we just put our own money, time, work, and energy, and the people that get the first fruits were not us. And we still haven't gotten those first fruits. Who got the first fruits? The people that are showing the film. And they didn't even bring an audience. The whole room was our audience. If we rented a theater, we would have had 200 people. We could even did it for $10 a ticket, and then on top of that, gotten more people. And so there was a lot of things that it's just from the moment you have this childlike wonder that gives you an idea for a film,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the last moment somebody's not going to try and pull as much money as they can from that whole process, because you're going to say, hey, I got this script. I got this great script doctor you could hire. Then I got this punch-up writer you got to hire. And then you got this one guy, and then it's like, okay, then, I could get you all this money. Have you ever seen the movie The Producers, the old one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where they realized
They can make more money on a bomb.
Right. That's why films suck right now. And people don't connect that they're actually trying to say something. It's not just a comedy. And I've seen this. My friend directed an off-Broadway play. They got $1.2 million, and they just realized that if it does well, they have to pay all the people back. But if it bombs, you could still get your day rate as your producer. So I'm going to produce your feature film, and then I could get my, day rate for 40 days. It doesn't once the film is done, I'm on to the next film. I don't care if it does well or anything.
I have nothing vested.
Right. And then so throughout the whole process, from pre-production to production to post-production, I could get all my friends hired from your script. I could get just the whole thing. And it's what other art form operates like what other art form started like that? They got there in a lot of ways, musicians and stuff like that have to deal with labels and whatnot, but film
From the get-go
yeah.
is what you mean, yeah.
So film, this is my favorite kind of conversation, is the history of film. It's not 150 years old yet. So this is a medium of art that's probably the biggest medium of art, right? It is not even 150 years old yet. So if you compare it to all the other art forms, which I was essentially making a spreadsheet of which art forms do what, and so every art form started from the ground. If you want to be a painter, you take flowers, you could mash them together, you can make paints, right? If you want to dance, you could dance. You want to sing, you sing in the shower, you sing around the fireplace, whatever. If you want to bang rocks together, do percussion, you could do that. If you want to do a play. You could just, act in front of your friends. You could do like little skits in the living room, whatever. Or if you think about like even just tribal stuff of like, making paints back then or singing and dancing back then, right? So like that's all the mediums of art. How did film come up? It came from two millionaires that had a bet on whether or not a horse's legs lift off the ground. So
that's right. They slowed it.
right. So they were able to see that. Then they're like, oh, we came up with this new concept called film, and inherently it was expensive. And it needed multiple people to be able to like run the film, process it, keep it in the dark, change out the reels, edit it, process all that stuff. It's inherently, it's the only medium of art that I could find that has literally been created in a lab, like the silver celluloid and stuff like that makes film. It's a lab-made art form where all the other stuff came from the ground. So for this long.
Yeah, this is really cool.
You don't think of it that way.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my God. 5 episodes you get.
Okay, cool. I'll take them.
Dude, this is incredible. Please, go.
So if film was music, we're still in the orchestra phase of things where you need 80 people to write your song. So if I go through a breakup, if I can't just play the piano and get through my emotions. That I think is the purest form of art. Is when you're experiencing that emotion, you make the art, right? So you get the guitar and you go through a breakup, and you are playing a song that night to give your therapy, kind of thing, right? That's how art. Oh man, like a family member just died. I'm gonna paint. I'm gonna take my mind off of it by doing all these art forms. So film being the orchestra phase, you need 80 people. So how do you get 80 people? Well, they all have to consent. A lot of times how you get people to consent is money when it comes to like a job thing. So it's all transactional. You get 80 of your strangers. And then another thing you have to do for them to play that song is you have to write a script or sheet music. So you can't even hear that song unless you've written sheet music for that song. Instead of just playing on a piano and seeing what comes out, which like when you're just playing and then you go, oh, I didn't like that, I'm going to move it. It's that song is like very pure because it just like was coming out of you when you were going through your emotions, right? So now film also has this huge delay on concept to delivery. So if you have an idea, you go through a breakup, you write it for 6 months, you pitch it for 2 years, you film it for 3 weeks, you edit it for 6 months, 2 years, whatever it is. By the time you're in post-production or production, you're already married with kids. You don't have that emotion anymore. Yeah. You've already processed it. You've already went through a million other things. And now you're trying to like do everything by recalling the feeling as much as you can. And you probably can, but it's further away from the emotion, which I think if we could close that gap of film and the emotion that inspired it or the thought that inspired it is closer. Because if I made films in real time or closer to real time, like back then, like I would have been exploring what I believed about God more. I would have, and I did in a lot of ways, but like what I'm saying is like, if I'm still trying to kick that can down the road for 3 years, my beliefs, my thoughts, my occupation, everything that I'm occupied by, is just going to be like different. And so your whole film is actually trying to keep this like ball in the air for 3 years instead of just like try and get it closer to. So the last thing I'll say,
I just got to say too, though, as you're doing, you said ball in the air, right?
Yeah.
This is where it got to me. It's like, when do you start also saying, is this that fucking good?
Right.
Because you're progressing, because you're going, shit, man.
Right.
My stuff now
way
better, and I've got
right.
3 years invested in this.
Mm-hmm. And you've changed and you've grown since. And so you're now like, I have a feature film that I've finished editing during COVID, and now I look back on it, I was like, oh, I could actually change a few things, and I will, but there is something that's like, I don't necessarily want to release this fully because of all the things I've learned since and because of making the film and, since making the film, that I'm a totally different person than I should be, and so like, if art is to express who you are in your current, I always say art is the rings on a tree or your heartbeat. So what it is your heartbeat. If I look at the rhythm of your heartbeat, or a doctor looks at a week of your heartbeat, they could go, hey, this thing you're doing on Tuesday night is stressing you out. And this is, and you could look at that heartbeat, the rhythm. First, there's a constant rhythm, and then you see the changes in that rhythm, right? So same with a tree. So I could go into any forest in the 70s, look at a tree ring and go, wow, or now, I could look at the tree rings and go, wow, there's a forest fire in the 70s on the east side of this forest because there's burn marks on this side of the ring, from 30 years ago or 50 years ago. And that's the same thing with like, oh, wow, this tree grew. You could just look at the ring and go, this one grew east. This is where the sun was. This is, just by looking at the ring, you could take the ring out and put it to somebody that actually understands all that. And they don't have to see where the tree grew up, and they could go, this was in the center of the forest based on the nutrients it was getting, based on all this data that's coming out of the rings. So if you're not making consistent art of any kind, then you're not going to be able to look back and go like, imagine if your heart's not beating or you can't track it in any way. Then it's like, yeah, you're alive.
There's no baseline.
Yeah, you need to be able to know where you're at. And I could show you art. I have a hard drive, I have 150 terabytes of footage, and I have footage from when I was 11 years old on,
That's awesome.
And so I could look at, I could tell you where I was, what I was doing, what I was feeling when I made that. I've made films like breakup films, like a song, I didn't put that online, but I was like, I'm going through this breakup.
It's like your breakup mix.
Yeah. And so those sorts of things, I could tell you where my life was and what it's doing. And then also I could show you my progress. The thing about art is the reason art is vulnerable is because it's exposing. It'll expose what you know and what you don't know. So as soon as you film anything, it'll show how much you know about ISO. It'll show how much you know about the thing that plagues us a lot of times is when but you made that mistake. Mm-hmm. I know not to overexpose, but oh man, I just overexposed on something.
We just made that mistake.
Yeah.
I look back and I was like, why the fuck?
That's the exact mistake we just made.
Yeah.
God.
And then you're like, oh, I hope people don't find out or don't think I don't know about this because I do know about it.
There's a reason the clapboard looks like that. That one took me forever. Why is it? Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Sorry.
But another thing with all the comparisons of other art forms is pretty much every art form I could think of has a term for improv or jazz. So it's like, hey, we're going to go jamming. Let's go jam. If you play drums and I play bass, let's go jam.
And then even in that, a solo in that.
Yeah, you could do a lot with the jam, but with the communication of what a jam is, that it's going to be a 2-hour commitment.
Yeah.
That we're going to play around and it's not going to be sold and it's not going to be whatever.
I need you to bring this expertise with you and let's see what happens. Type feel.
Yeah. Let's see where our brains are. Once I jam with you, I could understand your brain a little bit more. But the term for shooting at the hip, improv, stream of conscious for writing. There's a whole list I was making of all the art forms, and film is also a very planned medium. Everything is overly planned, where there is no term for freestyling or jamming or improv or whatever. Of course, hey, I'm walking here. That was improv. That's improv. That's an acting thing that's been in theater and all that stuff. But at the same time, it's that moment was improv. If you look at the whole script and everything that's ever been said, it's bink, you had this moment of improvisation, but there's not much of a term for improv film or something that's hey, a doodle. If I'm an artist and I'm a really good artist and I show you something I made, and then I say, hey, this is something I made and I'm trying to put in a gallery or whatever, you understand how to look at that and you know how to appreciate that. If I also say, hey, I'm going to show you something, it's a doodle, what that communicates to you is, I didn't spend much time on it. I didn't spend much time on it. This isn't the best thing I've ever done. This is first draft. This is
just kind of an idea.
A beginning thing, or this is like, or
rough sketch.
Right. If I did a doodle that was like mind blowing, that would show a lot about how good I am as an artist, right?
Yeah.
If I'm like, hey, this is a doodle. I did this on the bus over here. You'd be like, holy shit, this is incredible, right? And so like, because there's no term for doodling in film, there's no way to really show what you're capable of doing as a filmmaker.
There's just no way to like show what.
Yeah, there is like so for example, like if film was houses and like, you know, if you've only walked into mansions your whole life and the whole audience of film has only walked into mansions. What a low budget film is $1 million. $5 million is considered low budget. So right now, the audiences of film generally have only been in a mansion. And if I make a tiny house, they don't understand how to appreciate it because
that's a great analogy.
They're like, this isn't good. Because it's not Marvel and it's not millions of dollars, and I wasn't paying people like, you know, $50,000 a day, and I didn't have access. You know, I didn't have access to the same things as Marvel did, and stop comparing me to Marvel, because if you saw what I had access to, you'd actually understand that this is pretty good. And so like the thing is I'll do this all the time. I'll show people like a film I made, and I'll mute it and play a song that Martin Scorsese bought. What I mean by that is he did not play that music. He bought it. He had the budget to buy that music. I put that onto my stuff and it looks incredible. You take any footage of yours that you're proud of, you went to the park and you got some cool shots, put it to good music that you can't afford, and your stuff will look so good. So now it's like, don't compare me to Scorsese because I didn't have the same budget. You know how why people hate the Yankees? Is because
they
it's
always had the money.
It's a bought team.
They always had the money.
It's a bought team, right?
It's not
so
fair.
if you compare the Yankees to Sandlot's backyard baseball,
Yep.
then you're not going to enjoy Sandlot backyard baseball. You're not going to enjoy it. And so now, like, the film audiences they just don't understand, like, they don't have a way to understand, and nobody's really trying to explain to them in, like, ways to be like, hey, I made 2 feature films for $25,000. I don't know personally anyone that's done that.
That's amazing.
Like, you know, that's like,
insane, man.
You know, and I'm actually really proud of them.
That's amazing.
And I could show them without having to apologize. I could show them and not go, hey, by the way, this is a $25,000 film. I just go, hey, this is a film I made. And then they watch it and they're like, wow, that was great. You know, a lot of indie films, sometimes I'm not sure if it'll be boring or whatever. And then if they pry, I'm like, yeah, $25,000. And how many people told me I couldn't do that, like, before I did it? It was just crazy. I have like screenshots of comments and stuff like that, and like people like yelling at me saying you can't direct and DP a feature film, and I'm like, watch me, you know, like.
We're talking about the Birdcage the other day. You ever seen the Bird?
I haven't seen that, but I'm familiar.
You
but
definitely need to see that. It's so good.
If you reference a lot of movies, I won't be able to keep up.
No. And it's
you're going to
nothing
be
bad.
disappointed.
It's like watching how, like, just like looking at now how they shot a lot of it with just knowing now getting into shooting. Mm-hmm. Right, because I do the podcast and we do some of our stuff in our.
Yeah.
But like how this, like, one scene they had to have shot it with like one camera.
Right.
Like just how he's maneuvering around this table to see like
the
art of that. Like they shot the whole thing in like 2 rooms.
Right.
Like it's not a big. There's no explosions and stuff. It's
and
based
the cast
on,
slays.
The cast is just like to the point where you're like.
Yeah.
And then you look at like just some of the stuff now. It's like the Harry Potters at the end. It's like, why does he have to travel for 30 minutes of this movie?
Right.
And it's so sad to kind of see. But I go, just kill the budgets.
The example I use a lot is Rage Against the Machine. Yeah, a 3-piece like band as far as like drums, bass, guitar, right?
Yeah,
and then
and then they have the singer.
But as far as like a 3-piece band, sound so huge and big, and like they are bursting at the seams. Every instrumentalist in that band is expanding the sound as big as it possibly. And no hate, I've worked with Switchfoot and I don't hate them, but they have 3 guitars. Do they sound like 3 guitars, or do they just sound like somebody's just doubling guitars?
Can I?
Well, let him finish, but then yes,
because
this is
that's
great.
To me is like, get your 3 guitars, but show what you could do with 1 guitar first. Start with 1 guitar, and then you'll be able to really like push it. And I know that also people will have some hate with me saying anything about Switchfoot. Again, great band, successful, great people, and I have worked with them. But that was always my thing, is like, I would love to see what you could do with 3 guitars. I'm just curious. And maybe it's just like they all liked hanging out together. But like, I felt like when you just start adding stuff just to add it, then you start forgetting what the whole thing is, you know? I don't know.
That's great, like, then now go. Now time.
I just been walking, I'm like,
Because on that note,
this is my ultimate pet peeve, bro. Like, it's my ultimate, being a band guy, coming up from the days of playing in power trios and 4 pieces. And if there was another guitarist, it was the lead singer. If he was, I'm not bringing in another dude.
Right.
You can play power chords.
Right.
Like, we could get you to that point. It's all about, we went to see Muse. And a few years ago. And Martin had never seen him live. And talk about like a wall of just, holy Christ.
My
and
God.
it's like just
They're so
Rush.
good.
Those dudes, like, you just like, what, like 3 dudes that you're just like, whoa.
Right.
But before them, it was
30 Seconds to Mars.
30 Seconds to Mars. No offense to Jared.
Yeah.
I've met him before. He was the most wonderful
Same.
person. I worked with him when I was in radio. I was with the guy that we ate at a Mexican restaurant with Winners, and he was wonderful.
I worked with him too and had the same experience. And some people say he's an ass, but actually, I mean,
No,
at the
he's
time,
one of Pete's favorites.
Yeah, I did
I
only
just couldn't
interact
stop
with him
looking into
very
his
short.
eyes. I
Yeah.
was like, you're a beautiful man, bro.
Yeah, truly.
I'm like, look, I am the straightest of straight, but you're a beautiful man.
Yeah.
Like, but he almost I felt like he was more interested in me. Like, he was just like, so how are you? And that's great. Your work is, so you sell radio.
Yeah.
How interesting. It's not fucking interesting, bro. And these girls were like,
Yeah.
it was great. But here's the point. So that was when I met him many years ago and was very nice. So this has nothing to do with Jared or 30 Seconds to Mars, because I liked 30 Seconds to Mars in the early days when you were a 4-piece band that just was a band.
Right.
So we went and saw them they opened for
Muse.
We saw them at the amphitheater.
Cool.
Bro,
Great show.
Muse was great.
Muse was
They
amazing.
came out, they had 25 Japanese drummers. They had a guy in a trapeze.
Well, they're putting on a show, because they're not doing that on their albums, right?
No, but it's to the point
just
of, I
felt
always
too
looked
much.
at stuff as, what are you hiding?
Yeah.
Right? So it gets to a point where it's like drummers, keyboardists, and it was just crappy sound.
Right. So apply that mindset to film. Like,
What are you hiding?
And what they're hiding is the fingerprint of any individual.
Boom.
You can't have a fingerprint. Like, who directed Star Wars? Who cares? Did it change if they dropped dead and they put in another person? No, there's so many voices making those movies. It's like committee films. It's so big that it's not individual expression. And that's the other thing with film is, if film was music, like I said, we're in the orchestra phase, but we haven't discovered hip hop and punk rock and jazz yet. That's where we're at right now with film. You disagree?
No, I think it's fucking awesome, bro.
Okay, yeah.
No, I agree. Well,
There's no Kendrick Lamar of film. There's nobody having that deep of
there's
an
no
individual
Ramones of
expression.
film yet.
Right. So
like, there's not even to like.
And how did hip hop and punk rock come out? Is when record labels wouldn't look at them because of their low budgets, and they said, well, fuck you, I'm going to make the low budget sound part of the sound. I'm going to make the shitty amp that I have part of my sound. I'm going to make these low quality, lo-fi beats part of the sound. And then we're going to do this our own. We're going to do this in garages, basements. We're going to rent old mechanic shops. That's how film or punk rock and hip hop came up, is that it came from the people that were just gathering in their neighborhoods. And that's like, that was where those art forms came. And then they had this amazing amount of self-expression because of it, because it was allowed and because it wasn't like so many different barriers before you could say anything and whatnot. And like when people talk about like hip hop and punk rock being like really like offensive or grotesque or whatever, I think it was an exploration of like, can we really say whatever we want to say? And because they are allowed, because that genre allows them to say whatever they want to say, then you get somebody like Kendrick Lamar saying stuff that's like, wow, that needed to be said. And it's because he could say whatever he needs to say, because in pop, you can't say all those things. In Marvel, you can't say all those things, you know? And there's all these real issues that are happening in the world, even on these edgy films that are trying to be political. What are they talking about but the 6 topics that were handed to us of like, these are the topics that you're supposed to debate.
The pre-approved.
Right. Nobody's debating drone striking hospitals in Middle East.
Right.
Nobody talks about that.
Talk
Killing little Syrian kids.
Get a budget for that.
Yeah.
Get a budget to talk about something that's like where every president since George Bush has been doing that, and nobody's talking about that. Well, what are we talking about? Like abortion in bathrooms. And it's like, those are real issues as well. I'm not saying they're not, but like there's so many other issues that nobody even cares to bring up or can bring up, because there's just so many barriers before you could actually be truly expressive in film. That's why I don't think it's an art form yet. And Francis Ford Coppola doesn't think so either. And I kind of stole that from him. Is he's like, you know, he said this in 94. He says, I'm excited about all these cameras getting cheaper because there's going to be some girl in Ohio that becomes the next Mozart, and then the whole professionalism of film is going to be gone. It's going to be an art form.
Yep.
And I'm like, he said it in 94, and I think that it hasn't happened fully yet.
Yeah.
And it's like
the art form has dumbed up enough, and the use of the stuff, the technology. That's my point.
Right.
The has dumbed up enough.
Oh, absolutely.
To the average man can go raw, that.
Yep.
Go adjust.
Oh, totally.
Whoa.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the difference between like a long time ago. I had to write, like in the Civil War, I'm writing you a letter, right? And then I don't know the order. Maybe like, let's say a further back war, you're handwriting a letter, and then you get the typewriter. Then now everyone could do that a little bit quicker. Then you get the word processor. Then you get the computer. And now like my grandma has a computer and sends email. You know what I mean? Like, so every technology has a form where it's making it more accessible to everyone. Like photography, so many photographers are so pissed at like, well, you're not a photographer. That's just your phone, or you're not a photographer. And it's because, in the 70s, they had to learn how to develop film. They had to learn how to buy the right film for the right project, and also like expose it properly and white balance properly and all that stuff. And then now it's like, hey, technology is going to take away all the effort of doing that, so everyone could take a picture. But the thing with the term photographer is it's thrown around so much, is like, so I could take a picture of you right now or take a picture of that door. Yeah, I took a picture, but I don't consider myself a photographer, because just like somebody that's filming jury depositions isn't a filmmaker, right? And so like, well, what is a photographer? And it's like, are you adding anything new? Or are you taking a picture of something that's already good? You know how many people like take pictures at museums of something really cool or this art display, and they take a picture of it and they're like, this is a photograph I took. I'm a photographer. And it's like, wow, that's a beautiful picture. Why? Because you captured that accurately of something that's already beautiful. I took a picture of this bird, and it's like, okay, yeah, you're a photographer, but like my mom's a photographer and everyone's a photographer. Like, so, and that's fine, but what are you adding? And so all these photographers and a lot of people that follow formulas or just do the thing that's, all the technical stuff, it's like they're the most threatened by AI, because it's a formula. It's like Marvel should be scared of AI because they've been following a formula since they started. They're formula filmmaking where 100 people could drop dead and it'll still end up the same film. And it's like, that's how Marvel works. It's a formula, and your formula, if you're doing commodity, you will be threatened by commodity. But if you're actually adding something to the collective conscious, if you actually have a fingerprint, you're not worried about AI. Will AI affect my job? Absolutely. Am I worried that I might not be able to make a living as a filmmaker? Possibly. Will it stop me from making films? Absolutely not. I'm not worried about that at all. I'm going to die with a camera in my hand. Like, I've already decided it. It's in my blood. I'm not worried about somebody taking my ability to express myself, because if you get into film, all of us get into film. That's not a threat to my ability to express myself.
No,
because that's what I'm doing. But if I'm trying to take the picture of that door, then anyone could do that. And if you hired me to take a picture of this door and I drop dead, you could hire somebody to take the same picture. But if you need that door to feel a certain way or whatever, then you got to hire an artist. And so that's, yeah.
It's sort of like the difference between like what makes someone an artist versus just a person with a camera who's capturing something else is, what is that artist actually contributing?
Right. Yeah, are you adding
Beyond
to the conversation?
What's already there.
Right. Are you adding to the conversation?
It's like contributors versus non-contributors.
Right. And there's value in non-contributors, and there's definitely there's nothing wrong with
But that's the difference.
Yeah, there is a difference. There's a difference between what I do and what a jury deposition filmer does. Somebody that films, for lawyers and stuff. There is a difference. Do we know the same technical things? Absolutely. Do they know about ISO, aperture, white balance, all that other stuff, shutter speed and whatnot? Probably. They probably, in some ways, know some of that better, and because they're doing it in a controlled room or whatever else. I don't know, but there's value in that, and there's a need for that. And it's the same tool, but like somebody that juggles a chainsaw is not the same guy that uses a chainsaw to chop down trees. Same tool, different uses. What are you doing with that tool? And so there's people I know that juggle chainsaws. Are they lumberjacks? No. Does it make the lumberjack less valuable because they don't know how to juggle? Absolutely not. And so people are always threatened by, well, oh, you're saying I'm not a contributor. And it's like, you're seeing that as a negative. You're a non-contributor until you contribute. You're not contributing to the table unless you're contributing to the table. And the table is open to everybody. Everybody can add something to the table. Are you adding something to the table, or are you regurgitating stuff you've already seen or heard said and stuff like that? It's like when people are just at the dinner table and they're just like, this is what
heard.
This is what I heard on the news. And it's like, do you have any of your own opinions about what's been going on? And it's fine if you don't, but it's not the same thing. It's apples and oranges in a certain way. Or it's chainsaws and chainsaws.
So coming from a chainsaw juggler.
Yeah. You have one arm. Yeah.
But yes, if anything else, I hope, thank God, I'd rather an arm than anything else. And then the other appendage get cut off.
Yeah.
I know just enough to be dangerous, right?
Sure.
Not to be dangerous, but to so I shoot our podcast and I learn to light it and stuff like that. But you walk in, man, and I'm just like, Isaac's here. Isaac, what camera would you use if I'm looking to do it? To me, you're like, just paintbrush, bro. Use it. And I was like, and coming from a person that worked for years, and hey, man, you want to jam, and hey, and you get to meet people like, whoa, this guy's really good.
Right.
And you sit there and I didn't see it coming. And it's like, wow, that guy shreds. And the bond of, let's just have people show up together.
Right.
Right? We had the kid lives up the street, and we used to market sometimes the podcast on the fence.
Oh, right. Yep.
Yeah, so we'll just put up a banner and be like, yo, we did the pizza thing out there.
Yep.
The kid came over one day because he saw what we were doing. He's like, you're an interesting old dude. I'm like, well, thanks.
Yeah, you have to add that old.
Yeah. You're an interesting guy. And he's like,
thanks.
So I went to film school and this and that and blah, 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 and I just don't understand. And everybody I want to do some stuff, but all my friends are kind of like, you're going to pay my rate. I'll do it for you for like half rate. He's like, dude, I can't pay you. Like, can't we just get together? And I'm like,
jam, yeah.
Like, dude, when I was in bands, I'd load my drums up and drive an hour to a buddy's house and unload them and play for 3 hours to just.
Right.
I didn't sit there and be like, bro, I've been playing for some churches and here and that.
Yeah.
I go, he's like, you know what? I want that, man. We should do that. Never saw the dude again.
Right. Usually don't.
And it's like, it's so funny to me. Like, it's somehow that commitment thing of just, and I think that's where you get back to like the punk rock thing hasn't happened. Like that was just a bunch of dudes that got together that one of them played and they're like, my friend, like throw a bass in his hand. Can you do this?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Follow that. The next song is going to be yeah, I can follow that. Now he's in the band.
Yeah.
Right. And the more we could do that, I think that's where film has gone. Like, because everybody goes, well, I need rate. Or I need this, or
right. It's because they're in the film industry.
Yeah, but I think even if not, nowadays people are like, well, I want to be an actor, I want to be paid, or what do I get, or what is it shown, or what happens if? And it's not like when we play, man, it was never what happened if. It was just like, I have an urge to do this.
Right.
I see in your eyes you can do this too.
Yeah.
Like if you called me and you said, will you do this? I need you for a day. I've got an idea. I'd be like, fuck, man, I'm in. Isaac's cool. Like it's got to be something. I'm in. I would never sit there and be like, well, bro.
Right.
Like, and I would just for the pure fact of the curiosity and to know you of going, that guy, yeah, I'm down. And somehow that's gone. I don't
know how much it's ever been there for film. Like,
well, yeah.
Like when you move from music to film, you might go, oh, wow, that's gone. It's like, no. I've been in film since I was 11. It's not been there.
It was never there.
That's been like
I'm comparing them back.
The thing that's been aching me and motivating me to do what I do is that feeling of like there's no camaraderie. Like, and I get it. Like a pay rate, a day rate is validating, and being an actor is so hard because you're essentially scratching lottery tickets for a job. You're learning how to act. You're learning the lines, you're memorizing 3 pages, you're buying cameras, setting up your lights, syncing audio, editing it down, putting in the slate. You do that 3 to 10 times a week, hoping to get the job. Not got the job, but you do your work. You put in hours, hoping to get that one job. And you could just do that for 3 years. And people say if you're an actor, you have to learn how to hear no. I disagree with that because you don't even hear no. Like, they don't even tell you that you didn't get the job.
It's like interviewing in corporate America nowadays. You don't even get a fucking no.
Right. You just put out this audition, even though you memorize the lines. You might even like had this inspiration to like start eating an apple, and then the director might like that but not like you, and then put that in the film. So you're giving your creativity, you're giving yourself, you're putting your full front forward, like if you care, and it's all for a lottery ticket, hoping you get that one Coca-Cola commercial to pay for all the past 3 years that you've been doing this. And I think that when I've interacted with a lot of actors and it's like I need to pay them for a afternoon film shoot of a hang, that I'm not selling anything. Like I get it if it's like I'm going to make something with you and I'm going to sell it, then you should get a cut in some way. But if it's just like, hey, I want to practice my new camera I just set up. I want to just fuck around. I want to play around. They want to be validated, which I get. And a day rate, and especially a good one, will validate you. It makes you feel like I've gotten some pretty good day rates for directing, and I was like, wow, that means this is how much this person values you or values me, and I felt great. But they're also like, they have 3 years of unpaid work that they've done, and now they have this backlog, and so it's like, I just want somebody to pay me for all this work I've been doing, and it's like, I'm not the union, and I'm not Coca-Cola, and I'm not your agent that's asked you to work for free. And that's the thing they don't get is your auditions are free work for 3 years, making your agent look good that this agent wants to provide as much options to the casting director. So this agent's going to submit as many people as they can to show, hey, I'm the one that has all these different options for you. I'm the store with the most options. And so it makes them look good. but you're just putting out your best work, and you might be second best, but second best, you don't even get paid for that. Or a no. You might get a call back, which is validating for some, and then you just don't hear back because you're a little too tall, a little too short, a little too cross-eyed, a little too, big or small or whatever else. And it's just big. Yeah. And that's a tough thing. And people leave film because of that. And it's like, okay, well, you left the industry. And if that made you leave film as a whole, then I don't know if you have the same, I don't know if we're driven by the same things, because nobody could tell me to stop doing film. I've already decided if I go blind, I will direct a film. And that would be the
seeing eye film.
Oh yeah. I would have a DP.
Dog would be like, roll.
Yeah. But I would be able to listen and go okay, I didn't trust that inflection, but do it again, and then I would try it at least once. I would, because it's that's the only thing I'm scared of is going blind, because I couldn't do film. But I'm not scared of people telling me I can or telling me I shouldn't or anything like that. I've heard that my whole life. I'm good. So I'm just gonna go for it. And
you've heard that your whole life, and yet you still do it. So,
yeah. I'm ride or die with film. That's my primary partner. That's the thing. Yeah.
I was always I was always enamored with it, but it was just it was filmmaking, going to great films. Now, when I grew up, 80s, 90s, the films were awesome. Some stuff filmmaking is incredible, and it's just gone a complete to the point I literally, what cartel are you washing for? This is not. There's no way this got past some. This is horrendous. This is 6 movies ago, the same one, you just reskinned it. This is that bad.
It's rare that I'm feel refreshed when I watch a new film.
Agree.
Rare.
And it's I thought Everything Everywhere was really amazing. Everything Everywhere.
Haven't seen it yet.
All at Once.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
So this is the Everything Everywhere All at Once was directed by the Daniels, who are music video directors, and I've been following them for 12 years. So I saw their music video in 2010, and I just started watching every short film they've done, all their interviews, all their music videos for 10 years. And then it was it felt like a friend of mine got an Oscar. It was so cool.
That's cool, man.
But music videos are my favorite art, one of my favorite art forms, because
we
of
haven't even hit on that.
Yeah, I know.
We've spoke about bands, we've kicked around, it's just easy to pick up a guitar, talk to somebody, play together. Oh my God, that person can sing, that person can whatever. Open mics, different things that music has allotted itself for that lock, right?
Yeah.
You're actually trying to turn the tides.
With film.
Yeah.
With open mic nights with musicians, when I started that house, the film house, which was also started because I saw musicians, part of living at the house is we would do a monthly open screen night. So it'd be just a bed sheet and a projector, and you could show 5 minutes or less of anything that you've worked on or made. Then we started making the rule no wedding videos. But any art that you're making, we're going to give you a screen and a live audience. So then did that for years in Atlanta for a long time in my garage. And then over time I started doing challenge videos. So it was on top, and I called it the fourth wall, which was the open mic section, the 5 minutes or less. And then it would be challenge videos that would play before. So it'd be 1 minute, and it has to be these restrictions, handheld and include a slow motion shot or something like that. And it has to be 1 minute long. So we started doing that. Then fourth wall became all challenge videos. People were just aching to do 1 minute films and making something where the audience understands their restrictions. It's really fun for the audience to be oh, I know that they couldn't do this, but they found this loophole around it. You could really see how their brain works, So I did that for a while. Then I took
They used to remind when I had I played in this ensemble, and I had to play drums, and they basically got down to 3 drummers, and they would take stuff away from us.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it'd be playing and playing and playing and playing, and they'd take your ride away.
Right.
And then you're
right.
So they'd want to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
And so I I took a sabbatical from the house. It was called the Thunderdome. It was ran for ran for a decade and had like so many people like it was like the film house. It was pretty close to Dungeon Family where they started, and it was like kind of the same vibe. We're going to the garage and we're going to show our films and work on films together and film stuff there and whatnot. Then I took a break from that, and I just started thinking like, okay, so I'm coming up with these challenges every month, and sometimes I'm like trying to think of an idea for a good challenge that would challenge filmmakers to like practice. Anyway, I started this game called Kick the Ladder. And Kick the Ladder is a game where you make a 1-minute film in less than a week with 2 restrictions that were determined by 3 dice.
I saw this, like the one where it couldn't break for something. Like they were like the guy had to go around and like they were talking. It was almost a continuous shot. It was
so you could. So with the
that must have been that week's.
Yeah, that each week it's a different roll. So with this, you have like if you have the first die will tell you the number of the second die. So it'll be like 3, and then you could roll locations. So now you have 3 locations. And then the third die could be, and then the camera can't move more than 10 feet from a single point.
That was it.
Yeah. So now you have to come up with 3 locations where the camera can't move from a 10-foot radius. So like a tether ball, kind of like a rope on a tether ball. You have 10 feet that you could go anywhere. So how could you do 3 locations? So some people might like be in a hallway and film in the bathroom, the bedroom, and the hallway. Or somebody might do like a zoom camera where they're zooming into this house, and this house. 3 locations still followed the radius restriction. Mm-hmm. So there's a bunch of different ones where it could be like 2 people. So only 2 people could help, or 2 people could be involved in making the film. So you and another person. And you have to have a clock, an unaltered clock reading 11:48 in real time in any shot. So basically I have two times a day I could film that shot. Mm-hmm. I could film the rest of it any time, but I have to make sure the clock is 11:48. So all of those rules are very intentionally like, what are all the things that if everyone played every rule, they would understand all of, or like the baseline of all the things in film. So there's exterior shots, lockdown shots, handheld shots, limitations on clips, limitation on shoot time, where it's like you have 10 minutes to film the thing, or 40 minutes to film the thing, or whatever. That could change. And like just timing, like if you need to film a sunset, you need to be ready to film that sunset at the time that sunset happens. So that's what the 11:48 rule is it's telling you, be ready to film, get your shit together, get your stuff in focus before 11:48. So by 11:47, everyone should be ready and practice, that sort of thing. So
sneaky guy.
Yeah. And there's film students that come that are like, I've learned more playing Kick the Ladder than I did in film school.
I bet.
Yeah. And it's like, and they're making films every week. They're jamming. They have a live audience of over 130 people come. And we're making like 60 films a week. We've had a 8-year-old kid and a 72-year-old man make their first film. You get like kind of like merit badges or like AA chips for every time you make a film. And we call those frames, and they're like little frames. So if you've never made a film in your whole life, you get a debut frame. If you make a KTL film, but you have KTL, the abbreviation of Kick the Ladder. If you make a film just by the rules, then you get a film frame for that specific rule. So if the rule code is like KTL 43Q, that's the thing that's stamped onto the thing, and then you could keep track of that. If you get 24 of those, everything's in 24 frames per second. So it's like 24 frames. And then so if you get that, you become an S1, like 1 second, or season 1 or whatever. So you could look at, and then you get a walk-on song and all these other things if you've gotten to 24 films. But then you could also get other film or frames from if you've lent gear to somebody, you get you have to get 24. So like if you've acted in a film, somebody else's film that you didn't
merit
direct.
Badges.
Yeah. You could get an actor frame for acting in 24 films that you didn't direct. You could get, if you've lent
Achievement
gear,
badges.
Merit badges.
you get executive producer for 24 if you've donated film or gear to a thing or a location, or if you've done that with editing or writing or whatever else. So people could like keep their score, keep track of like, oh yeah, I'm a cinematographer. I have 2 of those frames, which means they've DP'd 24 films that they didn't direct, which is like, wow, okay, you've worked with a bunch of different directors and you've gotten really good at what you do, and you're probably good at like collaboration. If you have 2 DP or cinematographer frames, you're probably good at collaboration. You know, like people probably like you and like working with you. So you could almost use it as a metric. I think one day people will be like checking your Kick the Ladder profile to see how you are as a filmmaker, to be like, did they?
I love that vision.
Yeah, that's like next stage.
That's the vision. Yeah, I love that.
I basically where we're at is like, I need somebody that really knows how to build a website. And I've made posts, hey, I'm looking for a website developer. And people are always like, oh, I make Squarespace websites for actors and stuff. And it's like, no, I need somebody that knows how to build a website. Like,
you need a coder.
I need a coder, somebody that knows how to make something like IMDb, but streaming, where you could click through their actors and then you could actually watch the films, and a lot of other things where it's keeping score in like a video game. But like, it's such a hard ask to get specific about, but
It isn't just building your everyday Squarespace.
No, this isn't something you can probably templatize.
Not at all. I've got a prototype on kicktheladder.com where people could upload their films and they have profiles and stuff. And I built that myself, but I don't.
But you need something custom for that.
Yeah, I needed to start keeping track of people's score and keeping track of different things. But you could still go on kicktheladder.com and look at films based on the roll code. So you could click it and see like, oh, there's like 5 films that are uploaded by this rule. I could click and watch all 5 films that had that same rule or whatever. So not everyone that makes a film uploads, but it's a great prototype to communicate to a developer and be like, this is essentially what we're trying to do.
Yeah, but it almost clears a lot of like, this guy had to be decent if he's got this much stuff. And it's like a verified through.
It's like a verified, yeah.
It's like he shows up on time, always prepared. It's like, well, it's type of stuff where it's like, well, geez, I'd much rather have.
So it's also training new filmmakers to understand where their value is. So like the actor one is like, if people use your likeness, you get an actor cell, which could add up to an actor frame. But when people are like, well, I did a voiceover, does that mean I get an act? And it's like, yeah, that's your likeness, isn't it? Didn't you act? Didn't you memorize lines or read lines and perform them in certain ways? Like it. And so with that, what's cool is there's people that have literally made their professional acting reels from Kick the Ladder films because they just started acting. They played Kick the Ladder for like 2 months, and then they have an actor reel to get an agent from. And like, I know somebody that started a commercial business. He debuted at Kick the Ladder. He started a commercial, like a TV commercial business, and was getting like $125,000 like contracts for commercials he was producing. And he got his start at Kick the Ladder. At this point, we're at 2,457 films that we made since 2019, and that's awesome. With the COVID break. And so it's blowing up in a way that like I haven't ever advertised it ever. Like I haven't put on my own personal profile. Every venue I've put it in, it's outgrown. I did it in my 2-car garage. We were getting up to 80 people, and then we had to open up the garage and put the screen outside. And then that ended up getting shut down with COVID. Then I moved to Covington, had a barn, and that was getting like, people were driving. Some people were driving from Mississippi a few times.
Well, if I'm doing it. Yeah. I'm throwing, if I get the challenge and I'm in.
You're right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, of course I'm getting there.
Yeah, totally. So like it's really resonating with people because there's a huge lack right now in the film world of a place and a safe space to jam where it's not going to, like if I ask you to help with my short film, how long is that going to take? I've done short films that take me like 2 years to finish because, I'm working with the producers and we were going through the script, and then it's never like a set finite, like, hey, you're not going to be working on this for 3 years. It's actually like, it's just this week. like for this week we rolled, it has to be done in 5 days. So the submission deadline moves forward and you have to characterize an inanimate object. So tonight is when the submissions end because it's Friday. So it's been 5 days. And once we're done with that, like basically if somebody asks me to help with their film, I know that we're not going to work on it tomorrow. I know that it's only going to be a 1-day thing. I know that it's not going to keep taking time out of my life. It's actually like there's like a defined boundary when you start. It's like, hey, you want to help me with my KTL film? And everyone knows it's going to be like 4 to 5 hours. It's going to be a good time.
It's like what I do with...
You hang and then you leave and you're good.
Going back to music, if you look at... I'm a big grunge guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I go deep into the Seattle scene. It's just where I grew up.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up in Seattle, but at the time that it all started popping.
Sure.
Right around that. But there's a guy by the name of Andrew Wood, Mother Love Bone, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the prequel of Pearl Jam. Those of you that don't know, a couple of members of Mother Love
Pearl
Bone.
Jam, a local band, or what's the...
Oh yeah, this guy.
Have you heard of him?
Have you heard of him? Yeah, I've heard of him. But there's he was Chris Cornell from Soundgarden's roommate. Well, he died. This guy died had an overdose, died. Yeah. But there was a time where him and Chris talks about it in this documentary, they challenged each other to write a song a day. Mm-hmm. And they lived together for like 2 years.
Right.
And he said these songs were garbage, some of them, but then he goes, this guy literally would sit there and write a song a day.
Right.
And he goes, we'd bring it to each other. Sometimes it was a quick quip, and we would challenge each other.
Exactly.
Now imagine like these two, like they're like kind of in my, like he's like the epicenter of like this music happening. Mm-hmm. But like I could see that, like you could see it, and that's kind of what, and Kick the Ladder's bringing is that it's that just exercise the muscle
doing
long
the work.
enough,
Yep.
and if you do it right, and the truth is there, it'll happen on its own.
Right.
Like enough stuff will happen where it's like we were just talking off camera about. Remember, would you direct? I would do that, but I would deep in. Now I understand the difference. Like I don't want that, no, but I'll gladly help you set up and make it look exactly the way you picture it.
Right.
I don't want to be the one responsible.
I'm not going to do pre-production meetings.
I understand, which now I understand the difference. I didn't. I thought the director was the dude that set up the camera.
Right.
So if I said, and until you heard me going, I don't know what the fuck this shit, you're like, well, if you hired me to do what I told you I would do, you wouldn't have to know what this shit was.
Right. There's a lot. So directing for the longest time came, like a lot of the directors in the 70s and all that used to be actors. And now we're getting to this place where a lot of these YouTubers are becoming directors, and they're coming from a DP, a cinematographer kind of world. DP being director of photography. And that's like a very interesting shift where now a lot of directors don't know how to talk to actors. They don't know how to, they're just like, yeah, do your thing, right? Know your lines and got it. And it's like they don't know how to like get them there, to help with their emotion,
how
to help
coach
with their through line, to understand how to like get.
They were actors,
right?
And that's like anyone that has an interest in that art form. But there's a lot of people that are getting into directing that aren't interested in acting. They don't appreciate it as something that they should understand how to communicate to. Like I know enough now with like music where I could direct a composer. I know enough to be like, hey, on this measure, could you go up an octave? That would really help with what I'm trying to go. I don't know like much music theory or anything, but I do know enough to like actually like communicate.
To tell them what,
And that's what's really helpful.
Transfer your thoughts.
Yeah, with actors is like when directors work with actors that like, oh, I can't believe that there's that actor that's putting on their headphones and going into, like taking a walk in the woods while they're waiting for their shot, and then they just don't understand it. They think, oh, that they're being diva, they're trying to, and it's like, go to acting class for like 6 weeks and you'll understand why they're out there and why they're not trying to hear all the cameras up, and they're not trying to be in the world that you're immersed in right now as a director, because as a director you're immersed in cameras, lights, and this and this and this. That actor's trying to protect themselves from that world.
Yeah,
they're
they
not
have to immerse themselves.
Yeah, and I've seen people roll their eyes at actors for doing that, and it's like, you need to first like understand that a lot of the film art form came from actors first, then directors, like Alien Kazan and all that, like were actors first, and then they got into directing, and like Tarantino, and there's actually a huge list of these. But now it's like the people that are going on YouTube to see what kind of V-mount battery to buy are the ones that are directors. And they're the ones that, like, Spielberg doesn't know what the best V-mount battery to buy is.
No.
He doesn't care, and he doesn't have to, but he does. Every actor's like, of course it's great to work with him because he knows how to let me play and he knows how to let me get there emotionally or whatever else.
He gets the best out of
It's not just a name. He's not just a name brand of Spielberg. He actually knows how to get the best performance out of each actor that he works with.
Well, I was watching a thing on, like, going back and looking at old, like, Goonies. Like, you see behind the scenes Goonies stuff, right?
Yeah.
And how he comes on, like, head Goonie on his hat.
Yeah.
And, like, you see all these out there, like, they're doing, like, Save the Goondocks, like, these scenes that never made. Like, they had, like, I guess they were, like, picketing at one point. And, like, you see, like, that he brought them to certain parties. And the smart ones, it's like the guys that did, what was it, the Duffer Brothers? That did Stranger Things.
Oh, right, yeah.
They sent all the kids the movies back in the day and said, watch these, feel the... It's like the true guys know how to set the mood and do it. And it's like, I understand, like, they don't want to be in the middle of just trying to set up Shay to do a shot. Like, for her, it's like, get the mic right, this right. And I feel bad, like, I don't want her to think about that.
She shouldn't have to, yeah.
Now, with the two of us, sorry, but you do.
No, well, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like-
and what I'm saying is it's great that you're making it so she doesn't have to think about that because she's thinking about the jokes, the character, the voice,
Right.
all that other stuff. And sure, she's present enough and capable enough to be like, hey, I need this to be a little different. And that's fine because she's like actor-director. She has that ability because she's on the screen, but she's done a lot of her own stuff too. So it's like that kind of thing. But
It's incredible. I'm sorry. Go.
No, I have a question along the lines of what you said about like how people that are getting into directing now, the YouTubers that have maybe sort of the technical, what's the best V mount to buy, but they don't have that coaching kind of soft skill, that ability to bring the emotion out of the actors and to work with them and coach them. So like, what advice would you give? Like
take an acting class.
It's great advice.
I took an acting class for 2 years before I made my feature film because I've heard the woes of a lot of actors as being like, my friend was in a Papa John's commercial and he says, I don't even know who the director was. Like I got my shot, I left, I don't know who directed. And that's not uncommon actually. There's a lot of directors that will do it from a stream call, like a Zoom call. Yeah.
No.
Oh yeah. Oh, how do you think Marvel makes their movies? They do that. Like you could look that up. It's not only
They're not
COVID.
even on
It's
site?
not you don't have to be anymore. And I disagree with that, but it's clear that you can direct from your home.
So just send him a feed of how things look and...
Yep. And then it's like, hey,
bitch.
Yeah. Not that I don't know the majority or minority. Like, I don't know how many people are doing it, but it's definitely happening.
How the fuck do you smell? Like, you can't, like, smell the place and, like,
Well,
feel
that's because, like, if you're trying to make art, you would like to smell the place.
Yeah, like that. I'd be
But
like...
if you're trying to make as much money as you can in a
you're trying to
year,
make
the best
commerce.
thing is I could direct something, in between this podcast and kind of get my day rate while I'm also doing this podcast, and then I can maybe double dip and stuff like that. It's
bad.
It's sick
That's
when you
why
care.
the fucking Aquaman sucked balls.
I have
That's
a
why.
childlike love for film that I don't see often. And I'm not saying I'm better than anyone or anything like that. But I'm saying I don't see people wanting to smell the room that much. You know what I mean? It's like I want to be in the room and I want to be holding the camera. I want to have as little things between me and the art I'm making as much as possible. I would love as little communication in English to what I need to have happen. Like obviously you have to, communicate with words, but I love it to be like a discovery of a feeling and of an expression and everything like that.
We would, my bandmates would always make fun of me because we'd show up at a new place to play, and I would always find the sound guy and look at his rig and what he was running and his lights and what mics he was using and different stuff, why and this and that. And they were always like, "Look at Pete, he's always interested. He knows more about our rigs and our guitars and our stuff than he does." I'm like, I love the smell of it.
Oh yeah.
I want to be around it. Like I want to know as much as I can. And it's like now that we got this, I get that. And if you don't understand that simple comment of don't you want to smell it, right? Like if you don't understand that, then I don't understand how you, and I understand it's about making money, man, but
there's definitely people that can make art without using my methods and make some really beautiful stuff clearly.
Oh, I'm sure.
But like to me, all I could speak for is for me, I want to feel what that room feels like.
Yeah.
And I want to be in that room. I could tell if somebody's doing a line that's not believable if I'm in that room and I could see their whole body not really feeling when they say that line. You know, like
it's like in
You
Rudy.
said it
I'm sorry.
earlier. It's the wonder.
yeah.
It's the childlike wonder.
Absolutely.
The
If you
childlike
don't have
wonder.
that, you got to protect that though.
You do.
And that's my friend has a tattoo that says a creative adult is a child who survived.
Yeah.
And it's like totally agree with
beautiful.
that. Like you have to be creative and to maintain creativity, you have to like as an adult, it's like you have to fight for that. There's a lot of people that like are offering, if you're even just on a technical level, any good at what you're doing in whatever medium, there's going to be people trying to throw money at you in a certain way and hiring you to do jury depositions, you know, and doing those doesn't make you less of a filmmaker, but making less films makes you less like you should make films too. Like go do your jury videos, then go make your films. And one thing I'll also mention, this kind of ties in with Kick the Ladder, is film is the only medium of art that doesn't have room for hobbyists. You know, like, so if you think about, like, if you're a plumber and you want to do piano lessons, if you're, a roofer and you want to, like, do open mic stand up or poetry, or if you want to go on a date and do some pottery or whatever else, film. I mean, people say this all the time. As soon as you buy your camera and, you want to get into film, that's a hard business to get into. And it's like, well, what if I just want to play? And also, if I wanted to play, who's teaching me how to play? Where all these classes on filmmaking are how to make money and how to improve this. And it's not like, hey, this is how you express yourself. Mm-hmm. This is how you express yourself with this tool. Just like how somebody would be like, hey, if you're learning piano, these are some things that you could practice that will help you. You know, like practice these scales and then practice playing along with this and that. So we don't have hobbyists. And when you have anyone, a carpenter that's doing carpentry as a hobby and as a profession, their stuff's going to be so good because they're doing that reps on their free time. The people that paint and draw when they're watching TV are the ones that do great commission work or whatever, you know, gallery stuff, because it's just in them and they have to do it. Mm-hmm. But we don't have much hobbyists at all. Like, obviously we're getting into YouTube, but like all these YouTubers are like, oh, I work for myself. I'm a YouTube influencer and stuff like that. And it's like, no, you don't work for yourself. You actually have the worst work schedule of anyone I know, where you have to upload 2 times a week to get the algorithms to do something. And then you need to make sure that you're hitting the short clips on the off days. Then you're also having to make sure you're sharing and posting and promoting, and then also you had to get X amount of millions of views or subscribers before you can monetize. And it's like, so you had to donate all this free work for a long time, and then people go like, hey, somebody like this company gave me some free headphones to do a review on. They'll do like a 3-week production of these headphones. And they're like, yeah, we tested them out on the desert and when it's snowing out and seeing if they're good over here. And they're doing all these detailed things and stuff. And it's like, you got a $80 pair of headphones and you just donated 3 weeks of your life. And then I say, do you want to hang out for 3 hours and make a film? And you're like, no, I don't work for free.
I couldn't possibly do that.
It's like, geez, you just made a feature film for a company where, a 30-second commercial, even local, could have paid you more than you could have bought 6 pairs of headphones. If you think about it for a second and you just think you're so freelance or so like free, it's like, did you notice this year how many YouTubers were like, hey, I'm quitting YouTube, or like I'm taking a break, or I'm not going to do YouTube for a while? I saw that like on my feed a lot in January. A lot of people were stepping away from YouTube, and all of them were saying the same thing. I had to upload 2 videos a week. It was just so much work. I was constantly making films or videos. I was making a video, so many times. I was always editing or filming or thinking of concepts, stuff like that. And it's like, because if you stop for 3 weeks, then the algorithm's not going to be pushing you anymore. Then it's like, oh, you're free? You don't even have your 2-week vacation that your corporate job could have had. and you're doing this because you're doing all these free reviews of, headphones and V-mount batteries where it's like great production and all that stuff. And if you just charged them a little bit, it might have helped you out. But like you're doing all this free work and you're also not making your films, which is the reason you got into it in the first place. Like you got into doing YouTube videos to monetize or like to subsidize making your videos and films. And it's like, it would have been better if you worked at a corporate job. Then when you come home, you're not tired from editing, and not tired from shooting, and not tired from dealing with your headphones and your V-mount batteries. And people get so drained on that they're not actually making. Then it's like 5 years later, okay, I didn't make any films. You know how many filmmakers I've met where I'm like, like where they're like, I'm making my first short film this summer. I'm like, oh, that's exciting. That's cool. Like, how long have you been doing films? 8 years? You're making your first one? That's like a bass player saying like, hey, this summer I'm going to hit my first note on a bass. It's like, what? Are you kidding me? Your first one?
Yeah.
Like that's when you became a filmmaker, is when you made a film. You're not a filmmaker yet. Like, not to shit on people, but it's just like, make films. Like, filmmaker, one who makes films. Are you making films or not? And like, if you do something aspiring to do things, I mean, everyone would have changed the world and we would have world peace if it was just by aspirations and intentions. But we don't have that. And it's because everyone's just thinking that if you hope for something or inspired to something, but not actually do anything towards that. It's all
about taking action.
Yeah. Everyone's dreaming about like, I would love to like get a touchdown in the Super Bowl. That would be so fun. Just like picturing themselves doing that. It's like, have you hit the gym at all? Like, have you gone to the gym at all? Like, the coach, somebody's not going to blow out a knee and then the coach is going to be like, you guy over here, why don't you come down here?
We just had this conversation with Jermaine.
Yeah.
Actually.
We just had this.
Yeah, work ethic and all that.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, hey, I'm a filmmaker. And then you grab your camera and you're like, whew. And you had to dust it off.
Yeah.
It's like,
like we have a company that does this for corporate, right? That helps. And it's like, when
great.
I first did this, I had to sit there. They weren't just going to be, I'm like, hey, I can, and I knew in my head, I knew enough about everything to put it together. But there had to be someone to show we can do this. I can do it, right? And you saw some of the earlier stuff. And it's like this thing. I can't say I can produce podcasts and they go, which ones have you done? Mm-hmm. Right? It's kind of like, and you have to show back. It's a lot of people ask like, dude, it's so bad in the beginning. It's like, that's good.
Right.
Like the bad is the best, man. It's like Dave Grohl said it best. It's like you get together and you play and it's horrible. Then you get together and you play again and it's still bad. Then maybe by the third time you're like, well, Christ, it's not quite as bad as I thought it could be.
Right.
Right? And it's
Absolutely.
like, and if you haven't used any of that, I make films and I don't care if it's 35 seconds. Like here's a couple of silly shorts. Like you haven't one time said, and the funny thing is your whole Kick the Ladder is 1 minute.
Right.
Like
it's so accessible. My opinion of what a filmmaker is and my working theory of what a filmmaker is or what a film is a moving picture that is intended for a live audience. Because, so like TikTok, if you think about the first premiered film, which is Workers Leaving a Factory, it's a 40-second film by the Lumiere brothers of workers leaving a factory. That's it. That's all that happens. No cutting and anything.
It's pretty much so.
Yeah. So TikTok, they have scripts, they have editing, they have lights, they have acting, they have all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And they have cameras, whatever. They have better cameras than the Lumiere brothers. Why do we not regard those as film? Because it's vertical? I don't think that's what it is. It's because what's the intention? Who are you talking to? So if I write a note to myself, I could scribble it more than if I was writing a caution sign. The caution sign I'm trying to make as clear to everybody that walks by it, where the note is only clear to me. And if I was writing a letter to you or a note to you, it only has to be a little bit more clear than my regular handwriting, because you know me, you know how I talk, you can kind of fill in the blanks. But if I'm writing to, like, when I'm writing help, or even like a legal document, I'm going to print my name very clearly. I don't write like that normally. It just depends on the audience. So like if you make film for a live audience, if you make videos for a live audience, that's when it becomes a film, in my opinion. And people could debate that all day. I don't really care because there's plenty of wonderful films that weren't shot on silver celluloid. Like, we're good. Like the film definition by like actual film. I did use 8mm film. I have shot on film. I have a 16mm camera, like film camera. But there's so many like home videos from the 60s. It's like, is that guy's dad a filmmaker now? If we're going to use that definition,
Yeah, you can't. In my opinion, you can't bring it down to like apparatus. It can't be an apparatus call.
Right. That's also based on like how much money you had. You know how easy it is to shoot on film?
Right.
If you have money?
Right.
You know, like I'm not concerned with that.
That's why it's like, remember
that's
I said
not a skill thing, it's a money thing.
Brother, we've talked deep. Like that's like shooting on, boy, I'd love to record my album on 2-inch, but it's, you know how much a 2-inch tape is?
Right.
And then you do it and it's like, yeah, the drums sound great, but like, I can get that.
Right. And also if you're going to do it on 2-inch or film, like practice somehow without doing it on film. Like don't do your first thing. Like don't start there. Don't start with the most expensive canvas. Practice, and then you're ready for that moment, you know, when you actually shoot on film, you know?
We can go for days, bro. But listen, we're going to have you back.
Cool.
Guys.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about my career or story.
I
We haven't gone
we
into
haven't even
anything.
gotten
I grew
into
up or
that.
anything.
We're definitely
have
have
him
to
back.
do it.
Yeah,
So we've got to do another one.
I'll have to tell you when I was in prison.
We need to
Now
know
you'll
about
definitely
that.
have me.
Really?
I'm kidding. No.
Dun, dun. Guys, Isaac Deitz, we're going to have him back.